Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another KORTX product release session. I am here again with our VP of Client Services, Jess Ostrom, and our VP of Product, Alex Morissette. How are both you doing today?
Not bad.
Great.
I had more dad jokes for you guys, but after our last feedback that I received on our last video, I guess I'll just, table them. We could talk about college football or NFL, but I know we'll save that for another day. You guys won't want me to put my dad jokes out. So I know we got a couple exciting updates. We're also going to revisit some of the audience strategy piece of Campus. But Jess, I know you're excited to talk about a couple here to get started. The first being a form of performance forecasting that is now within Campus.
When reviewing campaign data or reporting, one might think, what's going to happen next, or what will performance look like over the next week? Although we can never perfectly predict the future of data, or we don't have a crystal ball by any means, having historical data does give us an idea of what might happen next, should variables at least stay somewhat consistent. In this release, we've added a click forecasting tool that Al is showing right here. It's currently in its beta stage, so keep that in mind, but we wanted to get it into the platform and make it available to our clients just for further testing. So within this tool, we're showing a forecast of estimated clicks over the next couple weeks. This will mainly be used for campaigns where CTR is the primary KPI, so clicks would be the main focus of the campaign or line item.
Al, any notes on how users could think about using this within the platform? Any guidance that you'd give?
Yeah, I mean, as Jess said, probably mostly relevant for those click-focused, CTR-focused campaigns. The other thing to note is that some mediums or ad types don't necessarily drive clicks. So we don't forecast clicks for things like CTV and audio that can't really be clicked, generally speaking. So this is kind of filtered out on those different ad types. The other thing I'll note is that, as you can see here, for this specific forecast, as we get further into the future, the upper bound kind of continues to go higher, and you would see something similar with the lower bound as well, except this campaign here is driving a pretty low number of clicks, and so that lower bound is kind of sitting on 0 because potentially there could be some days that have 0, but I just wanted to show that it does pretty closely align what's actually happened over the last 2 weeks. Over the last 2 weeks, we've seen anywhere from 7 to 20 clicks per day. And that's relatively close to what we're forecasting from 5 to 10 clicks on each day. And also, I'll just call out, this is kind of our first stab at KPI forecasting. So we've started with clicks. However, we are going to expand our forecasting capabilities into conversions and conversion revenue as well in the near future.
Al, I think a common question that folks might have is just how does it work, or what data is being leveraged? Can you speak to that just so everybody understands how these predictions are actually being set forth?
Yeah, so we're actually doing this not all the way up at the campaign level, but technically at what we call the line item level. So each line item has its own product, and so we're tracking the daily clicks for the length of that line item. So whenever it started, we'll use all of that history. So if it's run for 30 days so far, we'll use its last 30 days click number. And then we'll use an algorithm called AutoArima to kind of bump that time series of clicks up against multiple different models to see which model fits the best. And then that's the model that we'll use to do our forecasting. And this is something that we run every night. So each day, new data comes in as far as the previous day's happenings and its click number. We feed that back into the model to get a new forecast for the next 14 days. So right now we've started with 14 days, but we are kind of monitoring to see how far out we can predict. But right now we started with just the next 14 days.
I know you mentioned that this is really a first foray into looking at predictive forecasting, starting with clicks, starting with probably the most common KPI type still in digital advertising and programmatic. How do you see this possibly expanding more into performance-based objectives? If I'm looking at cost per lead, online sales, are there those types of plans in the future to, maybe be a little more intentional on performance advertisers that we're working with?
Yeah, definitely. That's actually what we're working on currently with the engineering team, is kind of doing something similar for conversions. So if you're an advertiser that's pushing a conversion, like a lead form on the website, we will start being able to forecast that 2 weeks into the future. And then also, if you are a brand or advertiser that has actual dollars tied to your conversions, that's the next step that we're going to take past conversions, is actually what we call conversion revenue, to be able to forecast the dollar amount for those conversions that we're predicting in the future, so that you can use this for, those lower funnel and conversion centric campaigns.
Awesome. Guidance to our customers. This is basically available to anybody that's running a media campaign with KORTX. Al's team, again, as we've mentioned in past videos, available for kind of more advanced or more robust analytics engagements, and that includes performance forecasting that kind of lives outside of the purview of KORTX and KORTX run campaigns. So just a friendly reminder to anybody that's looking for something a little bit beyond this, but a notable update that will be included in Kampus moving forward. So Al, thanks for sharing that. Jess, moving on to the next one. I know the campaign updates have been something that we've talked about in past videos. Can you just fill everybody in on how that now is evolving into health notifications that will be available in the platform?
Yeah. So a few months back, obviously, we released these campaign updates that show in that right drawer that Al just expanded right here. We didn't have these tied to any sort of email notification just yet because we wanted my team to get some backdated some notes and highlights added in here. So a reminder that these will be your optimization notes, key trends, highlights, recommendations, et cetera, et cetera. That's what's going to show in this drawer. Now the team has had some time to get some historical notes in there, we've enabled the notifications. So with that being said, moving forward with this most recent release, our clients will receive these notifications when they become available. If you don't want to receive notifications, also another reminder of the release that happened a couple weeks ago, you can adjust your notification settings right here where Al just clicked within that bell icon.
Awesome. Al, I know you're just figuring it through there. Any notification updates or any notable items just in terms of how people are setting up their preferences?
No, so we let you control obviously the in-app versus the email, and then we've got a number of categories based on your role. If you're only interested in billing notifications, you can subscribe to only those, and then so on and so forth with the different categories here. This one is obviously specifically a campaign notification, so that would be controlled by this campaign toggle here, whether you want to receive that in-app via email or both. And then I think we called this out when we originally did the notifications release, but the approach we took here is so that we don't double notify folks of things that they already know about. We actually send out the in-app notification to the users that are subscribed to that, and then we'll wait about 40 minutes to see if that notification gets read. And if it doesn't get read, then we'll go ahead and send out that email notification just so that we're not double pinging people if they are subscribed to both channels. And then just to call out that generally for all new users, you do get defaulted into all of these notification preferences. So if you'd like to turn anything off, you can go in and toggle these toggles here.
Cool. Great. Thanks for the update. Another quick way to help personalize the platform for you. With that, we're going to jump into a section talking a little bit more about the concept of audience within Kampus. And as many of our customers have worked with us over the years, know that audience discovery, audience intelligence, audience analysis is a very large part of the KORTX value prop. And now kind of finding a way to bring that, which was often a deliverable in terms of a note or a PDF, bringing that into the platform today. So it's another spot, it's another reference point that once a campaign is up and running, you can see how the concept of audience evolves. So here, a quick sample of a audience snapshot, focusing on a demographic segment here for a customer. Again, this is something that KORTX does on a pre-sales basis. Oftentimes, after a first capabilities meeting, can also be as part of a proposal response, really giving rationale as to who the audience is that we're seeing across the web. What are the right ways to kind of engage from a media type perspective, inventory, creative messaging? A lot of that starts here. And it doesn't just stop once the campaign launches and runs. So here you have your first look at it, kind of seeing a number of indexes, as we mentioned, interests, behaviors, helping form an opinion on the right media mix for any given campaign. Once a campaign becomes formalized and we start looking at audience capture, there are a few different ways to do it. One right there is the intelligence piece, which kind of helps us select third-party audiences, contextual segments, or a contextual approach that might be a good fit for a campaign. The next would be tagging your website, which you'll see here is our audience taxonomy that starts to populate. Another would be bringing in any type of CRM list or customer list. Still looking at an onboarding process through LiveRamp, which is the quickest and easiest way to get those audiences available in the universe. But again, in Kampus, now you have that holistic look at which segments are available for my campaign. And ultimately, as we move forward, how are they evolving? And those initial interests and behaviors, what do they look like, 2 to 3 weeks into the campaign, on a mid-campaign basis, on a post-campaign basis? And we're able to do that here through our audience composition feature. So taking a look at some standard age distribution, gender distribution, the piece that I think for many customers that is most interesting is seeing these behavioral and categorical insights that come along top websites that users are visiting, really giving us unique signals throughout the campaign, not only for optimization, but if there's tweaks in terms of new audiences that should be introduced, creative messaging that may be changed, even the content structure on a website, or for some folks, using this information to tweak how they're messaging on their social organic channels is a really nice feature. And Jess, I'll stop there for a second before we jump into how this comes to life in a campaign. From an audience management and even a client services perspective, when you're engaging with customers, how do you see this information being most useful? And do you have any like relevant use cases or success stories that you've seen from it?
Yeah, you kind of already named off a couple there. So once you get the tags on site and you start collecting the data, these insights become so powerful, these behavioral and demographic insights, because now it's getting more into the who of the users who are engaging with your website, which is your most valuable audience. So what we've used these before in the past, as you kind of said, is tweaking creative messaging. So for example, what you're seeing right here, users who are engaging with the U-Pull brand, they are 10.4 times more likely to have interest in RV living, or 20.9 times more likely to be interested in classic cars. You could make adjustments to your creative to maybe feature a classic car, or even from an audience perspective, we could build out a split that is honed in on just users who are classic car enthusiasts, and then also have a layered in creative that's specific to classic cars. So it really gives you an idea of it gives you more insight into who those users are. Like I said, another way that we have used this before, it helps with maybe thought starters for sponsorship opportunities. So you might find that users who are engaging with your site are 10.5 times more likely to be Kansas City Chiefs fans. So now there might be opportunity for a sponsorship opportunity with the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, it's a big stretch there for some brands, but just give you an idea of what these insights can tell us.
Yeah, and I think the other nice thing that you said is the concept of an audience persona. When we go into many engagements, and I think it's natural human condition, is my audience is someone that I know historically has purchased my product. And usually their interests are very closely tied to your product. We often get blinders and we kind of stop thinking about what else is this person interested in elsewhere throughout the course of their day. And I think something like this, you have cycling enthusiasts that starts to resonate, or visual arts. Those are things that I would not necessarily correlate with an audience that may be interested in adding, new shocks and struts to their pickup truck, and thinking of an automotive aftermarket audience. But yet there's these kind of unique nuances and behaviors that come through. So a lot of different ways that we can leverage this information. The other very simple one is just taking some of this information that's directly tied to an audience segment from our friends at Distillery and applying it to a campaign. So as you can see here too, a call out, these insights are powered by Distillery. We have our tags on site. We have an automatic sync in place where those audiences are modeled out, and then the insights are pushed directly into the platform. There's no manual work around that. It's all automated once tags are placed. So another really great feature of thinking about why you place any of our event tags on site. So Jess, thanks for the context there. The last piece is just showing where does this come to life? In past videos, we've talked about the idea of splits and kind of showing how audiences are broken out as part of a line item and how they're performing, how they're trending up and down. We will quickly take a look at those here. So as this loads, common approach for KORTX, we want to be able to tag your website. We love building lookalike models off of your first-party data, that website data. If you have a CRM list, targeting those folks directly or using it as a lookalike model. The other one, working with Distillery, are ID-free segments. So being able to use top keywords and going out and kind of predicting where folks are engaging with that content across the open web, pulling back more or less curated site lists, and being able to have all of that applied in one campaign. Now you see where all these segments are kind of stacked against each other and how performance is ranking. Jess, I know we're looking at a few examples here for modeled audiences, contextual, first-party data. Some of that does come directly from the insights that we just looked at. But again, would you mind just commenting on how you're seeing our team and our customers engaging with the concept of splits in the platform?
Yeah, so I always view splits as, these are different audience cuts, like you said, and not just a cut of modeled this, contextual this, multiple modeled, multiple contextual, multiple first party. And it really gives you an idea of what specific audiences are how they're performing against whatever creatives you might have tied to them. So it really just gives you, you know, below the surface. What's the word I'm looking for? It gives you, it goes below the surface when it comes to just the reporting that you're able to see, rather than just getting the high level, here's your display campaign, how it's performing. It really dives a lot deeper.
Yeah, the way I really love the way the team has built this out too. You think of the traditional way that programmatic campaigns were structured. They're very, you know, kind of they're very like tight, you know, and we have tight restrictions around them in terms of line item minimums and looking at a specific targeting type associated with one line item. This brings a whole new level of flexibility. You know, you can have your cross-platform display budget that we're looking at here sitting at $20,000 roughly. All these different targeting types within, whether they be audience or inventory, they can just be added in freely, and we don't have to worry about, you know, scale. Essentially, there's not a concern about having hard budgets broken out within. Now these are all freely tested against each other. The top performers are climbing to the top. The losers go to the bottom. There's auto optimizations that are occurring. And the last piece, you know, let's use your Kansas City Chiefs example. If I go to that audience insights tab and I believe that, you know, there's a real strong opportunity for my brand to be correlated with the Chiefs, I can go and pull a third-party audience segment that's tied and associated with Kansas City Chiefs fans, or a contextual approach that's tied to that. That can sit here as its own line item. And that is something that I think a lot of our customers are getting more proactive with and working with our account management and operations teams. Like, I see a trend. How do I test that specific trend as part of a line item? And that's where splits come in. So a really useful tool, and I think something that we'll continue to evolve on. And Jess, thank you for the commentary there. As we wrap up, I know we walked through performance forecasting and the future of that. Al, thanks for the notes. Campaign health status, and then another look at how audience concepts evolve within campus. Any additional notes from either of you as we close out today's meeting? No. It's usually a good sign.
Yeah.
So you know what that means. I get to tell a dad joke since we have a couple minutes. What did the tide say to the beach?
What?
Nothing. It just waved.
Oh my God.
Thanks everybody for joining again. I have just left my colleagues speechless. Hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time.